Welcome to the second edition of Appreneur Appcast. We're happy to have you aboard, and we've got a really interesting, really short and punchy show today. We've got a great guest, and we're also on with my partner and co-founder CEO of AppClover, Matt Lutz, as well as we're on with Jeff Williams, who is CEO of WebLance. Jeff?
Hey, I changed my title, by the way. It's Grand Poopah.
Okay, there we go. Grand Poopah of WebLance. And I think he'll have that one to himself for this one as well. And today we've got a special introduction as well. We've got Taylor Pierce with us today from idea2appstore.com, as well as the new book, Appreneur. So we're going to have a really interesting show today with some news, some updates, and we're going to get a lot of juicy information from Taylor as well on his new book, as well as some helpful hints as well. So let's just dive right into it. And Taylor, you know, what have you been up to? And give us a little bit of an update and about your book.
The book's been doing very well. I was actually recently on a news station in Houston, Texas. They did a story over it, which was pretty neat. And as such, we've kind of picked up a lot more clients, and you know, people are kind of really coming to us wanting kind of our expert advice on everything.
Right. Well, maybe give us just a little bit of a bio or a background as to who you are, so that our listeners and our watchers today can get a little bit more about who you are.
Sure. So I've been developing apps for about 4 years now, since the App Store opened. I interned at the App Store or Apple headquarters in Cupertino for the summer of 2010, and then I opened Idea2Appstore, which is our development company, at the end of 2011, and then wrote my book, Appreneur: Secrets to Success in the App Store, which was published in July of this year, 2012.
Awesome, awesome. And so, you know, what inspired you to write it? Tell our community a little bit about, you know, what's behind the book and what's in it.
Definitely. So the idea behind it was actually kind of a funny story. We have been developing, you know, really good apps for clients. And we found out that they, no matter how well we developed the app, they really had no idea how to market them and make them become successful, because they had the idea of, if you create an app, you're going to wake up the next morning and be a millionaire. Which, without the, you know, the right knowledge and go-to information, that's not going to happen. I mean, you realistically probably won't even break even. So I decided to put together a small little manuscript to kind of give to my clients to kind of, you know, push them in the right direction. One of them came to me and was just kind of along the lines of, you know, you should make a book out of this. And so I kind of thought about it, and you know, I've never really been much of a writer or a book reader, so I was like, okay, you know, kind of started typing it, and it all kind of came together. And one of my dad's really good friends is a professional book editor, so I called her, and she kind of cleaned everything up, so it all kind of fell together. And then, you know, basically an overview of what the book is and does is that it's 4 years of kind of what I've learned, along with what some of the other incredibly successful developers and appreneurs. And when I say this, I tried to focus more on individuals other than these big Fortune 500 companies, because realistically, we don't have a 7-figure, you know, advertising.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different game.
Exactly. So you have to approach it differently to compete with the big dogs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, you mentioned the 4 years collecting the data you used in the book. You know, over that span of time, what stands out as some of the most pivotal strategies you uncovered, you know, that our crowd, any app developer really should know about and would be salivating right now?
Sure. So, you know, a lot of people often try to come up with these ideas for games that are similar to, you know, Angry Birds or you know, things like that. That is a horrible idea, and I want anyone listening to not attempt that. Simply because you can't compete with, you know, a company that's franchised like that. Like, they have, you know, headphones now and candy and stuff like that. Yeah. You need to dig in to a niche market, something that you understand and something that hasn't really been flooded per se. So one of the examples I go over in my book is, say, you know, you're an avid cyclist. If you build an app for cyclists, then you will be able to basically kind of know all of the information of that market, and you'll be able to advertise it in a way that's, you know, fairly inexpensive, and that will get to just people that are cyclists. Mm-hmm. So it's all about kind of reaching the right people in the right market.
That targeting effect actually allows you to be able to spend your money more wisely, and your effort, your time, your energy more wisely, your resources, so that it's not such a wide market. I hear some people, they'll say sometimes, my product, everybody wants it, or everybody, and that's like the kiss of death, honestly, because it takes a lot of money and energy and resources to reach a wide market. Whereas if you have, like you were mentioning, your cycling, you have that niche or that community that stands up and says, hey, we're interested in that subject, and there's usually very easy or simple ways to be able to get into that, whether it's newsletters or magazines or other types of joint ventures that you can create with these people. Very good point.
And like Taylor said, like unless you're dealing with like a Coca-Cola or a McDonald's type budget, for your advertising, there's not a lot you can do. You can't cast that big of a net and just hope to, like you said, I've heard it a million times too, and it's marketing fundamentals, right? Like when people say this product's for everyone. Yeah, but you can't talk to everyone at once. Like that costs a lot of money. Unless you're one of the big boys, you can't do it. And you just have to really, really kind of, chisel down and get targeted focus and just laser focus on your niche and figure out exactly who it is you're talking to.
Yeah, well, and by doing that, just to add, it allows you to be able to also find out the hangouts of that niche, of those people, right? So you have a real, like cyclists, let's go back to that again, cyclists, then you can go, okay, where are these people hanging out? What do they read? What do they watch? All that kind of stuff that surrounds that community, so that then you can actually start thinking about where to put your message and how to be able to approach them.
Exactly.
So what are a few highlighted development, promotion, advertising strategies that you cover in this book that readers will learn by reading it, but that will whet their appetites, give them a great sense of why they need to read this book? Maybe you can just give us a few teasers with a little bit of meat.
Sure. So, a lot of people, when they think of advertising, they think of the banners you see up in the top of the corner of every website you go to. Realistically, for apps, that's not the way you want to go. You need to have a very kind of a unique advertising scheme that's going to really interest people, because not only do they have to go from like the website to the app store, you really want to build something that's going to make them have to buy it. Like, I need this now. So one thing that I've done, and this is something along the lines of specialty applications, is the power of YouTube. People all over YouTube now will post anything and everything, and they'll get hundreds of thousands of views and become little celebrities. So what I like to do is, say we'll go back to our cycling app. I like to find people that are, well-known cyclists and basically go to them and be like, hey, I've got an app, talk to them about it, let them see what they think. If they like it, be like, listen, can we throw each other some business? I'll be happy to put some of your, videos and content in the application if you'll talk about my app, my app on your YouTube channel and stuff like that. A lot of the times you can form a partnership right there and not spend a single penny and have ridiculous returns. We did this with one of our specialty apps, and it broke Apple's top 200 US overall within a day of doing this. So we went from making, a couple $100 a day to thousands a day, and with spending zero money.
Yeah, let's dive into that. Sorry, Matt.
I was just going to say, you're talking to the right guy. Like, Len has basically built his entire career on putting together JV deals and stuff, so I'll totally let you talk to this.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's great, Taylor, because that is something that hasn't really been talked a lot about in the app community, and yet I really believe it's the best kept secret as to how to grow very quickly with little resources. By reaching out within that community, and let's use the cycling one again. By reaching out within that cycling community, you can get endorsements, testimonials, you can get access to their newsletter. If they have a newsletter on cycling and you have a cycling app, those people in that newsletter are a perfect market for your app. So, do a cross promotion in where, you may be able to provide value to them in some way, shape, and form by exposure on the app, putting them into an advertisement, that type of idea, or if you have a website, putting their stuff on there, or whatever you can think of doing benefit-wise. But what you're getting from them is exposure to that newsletter, which is huge. I mean, thousands of people could be on that newsletter that are all cyclists.
Well, and the other added benefit is, like you said, Taylor, if it's a name that's recognizable and stuff, just the SEO weight alone, like that juice of their keywords, like especially if you're talking to someone like huge, like a Lance Armstrong or whatever, you know, like you're going to pick up just a huge amount of traffic based off of that alone.
Well,
and that's,
another,
go ahead, Ted.
another untapped gold mine with what you guys are talking about are these affiliate programs. Mm-hmm. So say you've got, you know, a cycling, a frame company for bicycles. They may come to you and say, hey, we want to, you know, target your users, offer them a discount. We'll give you, you know, a percentage of the you know, frames you sell through your app. We've done this a few times. You know, I expected to make maybe $100, $200, $300 a month, and was incredibly shocked that you can make almost a mortgage payment off of some of these affiliate programs if you do it right.
Oh yeah, and more.
And to that point, like I've spent the last few years in the affiliate world, so I've got a lot of it. Like that's one of the things I love doing, and just kind of a humorous story is recently, and I won't. We basically are part of an affiliate program and signing people up under us to, you know, for a service that's an app related service, and we just weren't paying attention to it. And I checked in on it last month, and I was like, oh, you know, talk about a mortgage payment. I was like, that's cool. We weren't even paying attention. And just by organically people, you know, signing up under us and clicking our link and signing up and using the service, we're generating, you know, a good passive income off of that. So that's a great revenue stream. And like, it's one that doesn't take a lot of effort, like at all. You know, they're already doing the app, right? You might as well just integrate as many of these revenue streams as possible. So that's a really good thing. And again, Taylor, you're right. Like, people aren't talking about it. Like, they're just not doing it, and they should be, because they're just leaving money on the table.
Exactly, and it's something that you can really do with free applications. Like, people, when they think of free apps, they basically think the only way to monetize them is in-app purchase or ads. And that couldn't be further from the truth. We had a free application that was basically utilized these affiliate programs, and it outsold a couple of the same things that were paid versions. So it's a completely new, you know, market that not a lot of people have figured out.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. Let's just, you know, go a little deeper in that, Taylor, and you know, you've got a few examples. Are there any other examples that you can maybe think of you know, expressing this point to people to give them an idea of how to maybe go out and set these up? You know, we've covered targeting, really important. Make sure that, you know, they're obviously, whatever they do, they've captured and have a trusted relationship with your audience, the same people that would be using your app. So whether that's pranks, whether that's cycling, whether that's diet, whatever it is, you know, there are people that already have an audience that are listening to them. So that's what you want to do, is to be able to form an alliance with them and have them endorse your product to that list or to that audience. So Taylor, you know, can we dive a little deeper into it and maybe give them another example and talk a little bit more about the affiliate stuff as well?
Right, and some of the other, you know, affiliate programs, when you're starting out, if you're starting small, they may not be able to allow you, you know, these 10 or 20% revenue returns. Don't worry about that. It's not an issue, because they will be willing to do Facebook shout-outs, you know, the newsletter you were talking about, Twitter shout-outs, stuff like that. I did a few things like this with my book. You know, I basically just had, you know, companies with information in there that I used, and I just reached out to them and was like, hey, you know, I used, you know, kind of your information in my book. Would you be cool, you know, sending a Twitter blast or whatever? And next thing I knew, you know, the day the book went out, I had about 800,000 people hearing about it, and I didn't pay a penny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's a very powerful thing. Joint ventures, alliances, you know, they've been called many different things, but that resource sharing in that way and cross promotion is absolutely huge. I mean, we at AppClover, we do that quite a bit, and you know, it buys us a lot of exposure that we're not really paying for. It's relationship exposure, which is huge. And for, you know, a small indie developer or an appreneur that has, you know, they're building their network of apps and they've got some apps out, you know, reach out to other app developers as well and create other networks. You know, join forces with others, because, I mean, you know, I really, it's an acronym type thing that they say, you know, team together, everybody achieves more, and it's kind of, you know, silly in some ways, but the joint venture side of things, it's really true. I mean, you gain what's called leverage which, you know, in leverage, you do little and you actually have the energy or the force that you have with it is quite a lot more. Like the mortgage on your house is a leveraged point. You pay a little and you actually are able to capture a lot of value. So it's the same way within joint ventures and alliances, is you're capturing huge value because these other people have spent time in building up their audience and their trust and relationship with this audience. So for you to come in, tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, can you endorse my product, or, you know, do a review of my app to your audience. You know, and I'm sure your audience would love my app, and if it's a paid one, you know, I can kick you back some. If it's not, we can figure out another deal. That can actually buy you a huge amount of promotion and exposure for no cost.
And you know, and the other thing too, to keep in mind too, is you do that JV once, and if you're building a network of apps, you know, you've got all those people in your network that you can later on, you know, advertise all your other apps to, and get them into those as well. You know, so I mean, that's huge. It's like you do a JV with a person once, and you know, then you've got their traffic, their list, and you know, you don't have to necessarily do it again with them, but you're getting the benefit of exposing all of their list to all of your other apps as well. So I mean, it just kind of keeps growing and growing in that way.
And the one secret that I can give everybody about this and about building relationships, I've been doing it for over 22 years. I've done every type of joint venture you can possibly think of, and it's about relationships. And really, how do you want to be treated? Turn around and treat the other person that way first. If you serve first in ways and be able to create the friendship that's there, show your value of what you can do for them, you have no problem with them coming back and wanting to do for you. And that's really my way of doing it. It's a lot easier, I feel, than, you know, having to ask people over and over and prod them into doing stuff. I just go ahead and, you know, do something for them, you know, first. I sent a lead, as an example, to one of the partners that we're just bringing on for content for AppClover this week, and we couldn't do anything with it, so I threw it to him, and it's going to be, you know, tens of thousands of dollars for this person. Now, do you think that, you know, when I ask him to, you know, mail out or to announce us to his list, there's going to be a problem? No, there won't be, because we've already served first. So that's what I found to be really, really valuable. If you can think of what that person would want, find a solution for them, provide value first, you won't have a problem with them talking about, you know, your app or your network. So Taylor, you know, you've been in this landscape for a while. I mean, you interns at Apple, so I mean, you've got some great experience that you've been around. Now, how has the app landscape changed since you first entered into it, and where do you see it heading in the next, say, 6 months?
Okay, that's a fantastic question, and it's something, you know, a lot of people haven't really changed their mind to. So, you know, everyone basically still believes that you can make the fart or the flashlight app and go buy a Ferrari the next day. The truth is, in the last 6 months, Apple has done a lot of kind of purging of the App Store. Essentially, those things aren't going to be allowed. They're actually starting to be taken down, things like that. Apple's now, since we're at the 650,000th app mark, they want quality. People want quality applications. So you need to be able to deliver a good quality app. And that being said, you know, paid apps now aren't as powerful as they used to be. People now really want kind of the best bang for their buck, and that means free. Not to the point where it's the Android App Store where they won't buy anything, but it has trickled down a bit. There's still plenty of ways to monetize this. We talk about freemium apps, so basically free apps with premium content, and that premium content can be delivered through in-app purchases or through companies like, I believe it's Tapjoy, where you have paid per install type things. There's tons of ways to monetize your app in a free market. You know, affiliate programs that we talked about that are there, but I think that freemium apps within the next 6 months are really going to take over. And if you grab your phone right now and go to top grossing applications, not one of them is going to be what you think. It's not Angry Birds or Words of Friends or any of those. It's freemium apps that have either virtual currency or something like that that are just generating ridiculous amounts of revenue, but the user never pays to install the app on their phone.
So, you know, that's where you see in the next 6, you know, we all know that the tide is really changing very fast. You mentioned with Apple purging and you know, the changes that they're making. What do you see in the next, you know, let's you know, put the crystal ball a little bit further. What do you think the next big thing on the horizon we should be watching for, you know, in the next year, say, for instance?
That's a really good question. I have some ideas that I'm going to kind of hold to myself on that one. You may see that information in the book. But there's going to be some big things kind of coming, and it's going to be one of those things for people that are able to keep up with like what's going on here with kind of expert advice. Those people are going to succeed. The people that are kind of willing to see past the curve are going to do very well. The people that kind of can't get out of the 90s per se, that are kind of stuck in the old app store, they're going to tank. I mean, and it's going to happen very soon. I mean, that is probably within the next 2 or 3 months.
It's how fast you can swim with the current.
Exactly, and if you can get ahead of that current, that's even better.
Right on. So finally, what parting advice from your book, Appreneur, would you give the newbie Appreneur who's entering into the space right now?
Sure. So it's all about staying positive. Your first app it could be a home run out of the park, or you can just dribble it off your foot. It's all about what you take from it, what you learn, and kind of not giving up. You really have to your application is going to grow. It's almost like having a child. Like, it's not going to just be born and be a professional athlete. Like, you have to really kind of nurture it in the sense and really kind of get it moving. So just kind of keep your head up and just kind of always keep your eye on the prize.
Right on. And it takes work.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not, people really think of apps as, I'm going to make an app and, get paid and not do anything. It's a business like any other.
Awesome, Taylor. Fantastic. Well, to keep up with the I think we might have gone a little bit further in time-wise there, so we'll catch up with the rest here. I failed to mention who I am at the present as well at the start. I introduced everybody else. By the way, everybody, as a late runner, my name is Len Wright. I'm the CEO and co-founder of AppClover, along with Matthew Lutz, my partner. So now that being said, I'm going to turn it over to the second segment, In the News, with Jeff Williams from the Grand Poopah of Weblands.
That's right. Well, it's actually had a lot of stuff come in this week. I think I'm going to start with some really great news. There's been a 94% increase in mobile development jobs posted this year leading up to March 2012. The need for digital marketing freelancers has developed with a quarterly growth of 24%. So, I mean, that's like stupid massive. You think about like the Chinese economy is growing at 6%. Everybody talks about how great that is. Our industry is like growing 24%. What's really interesting about this story is that half of that growth has really come out of the UK, which absolutely surprised me. The other thing that surprised me is although that Android is outselling iPhone, most of the jobs that are created are for the iPhone. So there's a heavy push to hire right now for iPhone developers. But the end of the day, our business is growing and it's strong, and there's tons of jobs out there in our business, which means that there is a lot of business out there. So great news.
Well, and real quick, Jeff, to that point, you shared a stat with Len and I, a little while back, and it was something staggering as far as when you look at Odesk and Elance combined, how much revenue.
Oh, okay. You're going to test my memory here. So what's cool about our business is that you can actually go to Odesk, and they have something called Oconomy, and Elance has a similar one. I can't remember what it is, and they have all kinds of market statistics about the types of jobs and how much money is being put through their system. And if you look at the technical side, it's about 50% of their business. Now, I don't recall what percentage of that is mobile apps, but obviously it's going to be a huge portion of that number. Now, just when you're, I can't remember what it is, but it's something stupid like $40 million a month when you combine all the job boards for technical. Or anyway, you can go there and check it out. I really don't recall off the top of my head, but
it was huge. Yeah, though I remember it was
huge.
something.
It's
huge.
It's just ridiculously huge. Yeah. So
well, and it's now. I mean, when you mentioned, 24%, and we're also talking before about the competition heating up and things changing, but you can see that the opportunity is still really, really alive and kicking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I get pretty bummed out like when I watch the news and I hear about unemployment, and I think about, like there's a ton of people out there that kids in a house and they don't have a job, and we're in this business. So, Taylor was saying, keep your head up, stick with it, stay positive. when you look at these numbers and to know that you're in that business and not to stay positive, you'd be crazy. I mean, you'd have to have, if you can't be positive in the fact that your business is growing at 24% in this economy, get out of the business.
You know, I'm going to give a plug to someone that's not here because it's a book that I highly, highly recommend, and I've read it a couple times, and I've met him, the author and all that stuff, and I've seen him speak, and his name is Peter Diamandis, and he wrote a book called Abundance. And if you at all feel like, you know, the headlines are weighing you down as far as what you see on the news every day about the economy and everything, yeah, don't get me wrong, we're in a shite state of affairs, like I get that, but you know, you read this book and you'll walk away so much more optimistic, and it'll change your paradigm of thinking as far as what you can actually do and where opportunity actually lies. It's just a matter of expanding your thinking and looking at things a different way. Like, and everyone knows, like every entrepreneur or appreneur, if you will, knows that on the flip side of every single hurdle or issue or problem lies opportunity. And it's just a matter of switching the way you think. And this industry is, you know, completely, I think, evident of that.
Well, and it's something that I always remember, too. During the Great Depression, there were more millionaires made than any other time in that history. So, you know, it can be a real heavy subject by far, but at the same time, we've got to look at you know, the things. There's a big change going on, and the mobile. I really think that the whole mobile thing is really at the lead of that change and that switch. Do I know where it's really going? No, but there definitely is change going.
Well, like Taylor said, just to bring it back to him real quick, is you know, you can't just, oh wow, my thought completely left my head. That's amazing.
Taylor, did he give the thought to you?
I did not receive it.
No, I totally forgot what I was going to say. It was basically about the industry and where it's going, and you can't. That's what it was. Okay. The whole idea to just go into it thinking you're going to get a Ferrari by throwing an app up there is you need mentorship. You need to consume as much information as possible. You need to educate yourself as much as possible. Totally redeemed myself.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. All right. Next story. Galaxy has a new Galaxy tablet is out, and you know, again, not a big news story, but I always like to talk about the news stories where there's opportunity. It has a pen. A pen. How is this an opportunity? Well, we can have different types of games, maybe games that are not released yet that use pens. Maybe some games are funner when you use a pen. So anyway, I haven't seen the tablet yet. I want to check it out, but that's something to look at if you're in the Android space. I'm going to keep it moving right along to the next story. This has been, probably for the last 2 weeks really, been lighting up on all the blogs about piracy from China and how that's hurting the developers' bottom line. They are pretty much copying, as they always do, everything that is, you know, released in America. And we're not talking just versions for China. They're actually releasing these back into the market. And this has become a real problem for Google. So, you know, already we have a market, Taylor mentioned this earlier, that people just don't want to spend money in Google Play. Whereas in the iPhone, iTunes, they will spend that. And when you throw in this complication of having all of these pirated apps there, if you are an Android developer, you know, what can you do to protect yourself? What are some of the things that you can? And I did some research on this, and there ain't a whole lot you can do.
You just have to accept the fact that when people copy you and imitate you, it's the highest form of flattery.
Yeah, right. You know, I was thinking today, if they like with this lawsuit between Apple and Samsung, well, I have a Galaxy and I love it. It's a big screen. I liked it better than my iPhone, and I'm thinking, you know, I have absolutely no problem with the fact that they copied iPhone because I like it better. It's only when they make stuff that I don't like better that I think they should probably, you know, lose a lawsuit.
So they don't. So when they don't improve or make it better,
exactly.
Notch, yeah.
When you make a bad copy, you should be, you know, go to jail or get sued or something. All right. I love this. FTC, they are accusing Facebook of misleading developers. So last week we had this story about how they opened up their app marketplace to the whole world, and they're already under investigation. What they did was they told everybody that they'll verify apps, that they're safe, that you know, there's no malware and their privacy is protected. and they didn't. It's just something that you got, and they didn't do anything about it. So the FTC is saying, no, that's not right. They said it's reported the social networking site was paid up to $95,000 in order to give software green ticks of approval, and they did absolutely nothing for it. So,
you know what? Funny, if Facebook is obviously they're such a behemoth. They're kind of like the Titanic. Right? They decide to do something, and it's a slow reaction time. We saw this when they went public, and their stock absolutely plummeted when everyone thought great things were going to happen. We'll see what happens when all the actual when people are allowed to start dumping their stock. Let's see what happens then. I'm really curious where things are going with Facebook, and now this. They have a really good way of making huge announcements and then stumbling a little bit. They're impressive that way.
But on this one, it's about them sort of selling nothing, and after I watched that movie about
so was them going public.
Yeah. What was the guy's name that owns Facebook? How come I can't remember?
Mark
that?
Zuckerberg.
Yeah. After I saw the movie about Mark, and I'm reading this, and I'm going, the guy I saw in that movie would do something like this. Maybe that movie wasn't so bad. Maybe it really is like that. So I don't know
how it plays out.
Sorry, Mark. I don't know you. Let's see. Okay, so. Just another quick announcement about Jelly Bean that you want to get updated with. Google posted some style guidelines for developers. If you are making an app for your new new Android app, you want to make sure that it doesn't look like anything that came from Windows. Don't use Windows buttons. Don't use Windows anything. They will not approve it. So that seems to be the general theme. Again, Taylor was talking about quality over quantity, and I think that's not only true for iPhone, but that's going to be true for Android, and it's going to be true for Windows. They're really protecting their platforms, the user experience, the buttons.
Well, as a design guy, I would never do that anyway, because Windows design and interfaces are usually
tell me about it. I know. I can't stand them. All right, yeah. I mean, glossy buttons. Don't you hate it when you hire a developer and they send you something and it has a glossy button on it? Doesn't that make you want to just, instantly you made a bad hire? So, all right, well, that's the news this week, guys.
All right, cool. Well, just to keep things moving along then, I think we kind of went a little longer than we planned on. Taylor, I just want to bring it back to you and ask you a couple of quick follow-up questions and just kind of tie back to maybe your book a little bit. Do you have, and I know you've covered a lot of case studies and stuff like that, and including all the things if you want to even talk about your own, but if you could real quick talk about maybe a couple inspirational Appreneur success studies that really stand out, in your mind that you can share with us and our watchers and viewers, that'd be great.
Sure. So I'm going to shy away from my own, kind of since I had a different experience than everyone else, and I'm a developer. This story, I actually reached out to the guy because it's really inspirational. It's really cool. He had no programming knowledge, no background in software, any of that. He just wanted an app built. So he went out and subcontracted the work for his app, Photo 365, and I think he spent around $2,500, which is really, really, really cheap. And sometimes going cheap isn't the best route, but this is an exception to that. So anyway, he completely subcontracted all the work for this app, and he was a very smart marketing guy, advertising guy, and all that. His app ended up getting featured by Apple within the first couple of weeks of it, coming out or whatever, and he broke even in the first day and a half or something like that, and ended up making $36,000 the first month. So he's kind of a great. His name's Benny Hugh with Photo 365, and it's a fantastic story because it shows that you don't have to have this fat bank account or this ridiculous amounts of programming knowledge to make a successful application. You just kind of got to have a dream and then a way of achieving it.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and that's a really good case study or story to talk about, because I think the majority of the time people look at the headlines, they see the Instagram selling for $1 billion, they see draw something 180 million. The reality is people don't really consider that this is not just a hobby. If you want to make it and you want to make it big, it's a business, and there's a lot more history behind both of those headlines, of the big app sales and people that sell their companies.
Oh yes, I mean absolutely. These, in my opinion, it's a fantastic business, but it's very cutthroat. It has its ups and its downs, and you kind of got to be ready to roll with the punches and really kind of dig in, because it's not as easy as everyone thinks. Like, if you're willing to work really hard at it, then you will definitely succeed. But if you think that my app's in the App Store, time to kick my feet up and have a beer and get paid, that's just not going to happen.
No.
Yeah, and I think that's huge. And what you said is the exact key right there. This is a business. It's not a hobby. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not any of that stuff. If you attack it and you approach it like a business and you dedicate your time to it and all that stuff, like, this isn't something you can just – there are, like, this is not a 4-hour work week type thing when you're building anything. Once you get things on automation and stuff like that, if then you want to check out and just kind of keep things running, sure. But you need to have 100 apps in the store before you can get to that level, and where it's just monitoring and collecting a paycheck. In the meantime, you're gonna have to work your ass off, and you're gonna have to put in the time, the blood, sweat, and tears like that. It just has to happen. Otherwise,
like in any new business, the first people in are the people that are going to tell everybody to get in the business because they can make millions, and they're going to tell them how to do it, and that's how they do it. But they've actually never actually done it. And one of the things that I like about AppClover and the shows that you guys always put on are the fact that you're always doing it with people who have actually done it. And the one theme all across the board is it's like any other business. It requires a lot of work. It's very rewarding. It's a good business to be in. But it's not that it's any easier than any other business. It requires work, without a doubt.
You're right, Jeff. And the one thing I tell people all the time is, it's not easier, but you do have a little bit of, well, actually more than a little bit of help with, as we go back to that 24% increase in that wave, that current that's going and running. If we're grabbing onto that properly with the proper knowledge or wisdom that backs up and resources, then we can have a really, really fun ride. But you've got to know your marketing. You've got to know, and that's why Matt and I really started AppClover, was we seen a real huge gap in the market where people are, they're throwing these apps out into the market and then just sitting and waiting and wondering what's going to happen. And then when they go and look for information, they just can't find, what do I do? And then people will say, well, do social media. Well, do what with it? How do I do what with, like, where do I fit in here, and what strategies do I use, and what tactics do I use to be able to actually get those eyeballs and those downloads in the end? And that's why it's so valuable. People like Taylor coming out with the books and the information, and with AppClover and with Weblands. These places, plus many, many more, are providing resources so that these people can learn. But the one thing, Jeff, and everybody has to realize this, is somebody else can't learn for you.
Yeah.
It's your business. You have to learn. You have to read, take this information in, and then test it. And in your own experience with your own apps, take the information that you learn from AppClover and these podcasts and everything else, and from Appreneur, the book, and then put it into practice. See what works for you. The marketers that you see out there that are very famous and doing really well are ones that it's like shampooing your hair, right? You rinse, repeat, shampoo, rinse, repeat. Well, it's put it out, test, repeat. Tweak, test, repeat. Tweak, test, repeat. And so, I really just, it's that way over and over again with your app business. It's no different. You got to find that path yourself.
Yeah, which is why they need to get Taylor's book, right?
I was to say, I think that's a good place to stop. And real quick, because I love advertising history and stuff like that, the whole rinse and repeat thing on shampoo bottles was literally just a ploy to try and increase their sales. That's it.
Yeah, I love that.
I thought that was funny. I guess at this point I just want to say, the idea is we want to keep creating these podcasts and keep giving people more information and more tactics on monetization and marketing and all that stuff. That being said, I know, Taylor, we couldn't get into everything we wanted to, but definitely want to extend the invitation to you to come back at a future date, if you want to come on these.
Oh, definitely. I'll be here. I always like talking about apps and stuff like that. So
Cool.
Right on, Taylor.
Hey, Taylor, can I get a discount on your book?
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay, I'm going to email you.
Sounds good.
Well, and to close things out here, you can definitely find more out about Taylor and his book at his website, www.idea2appstore.com. So it's idea, the word, the number 2, appstore.com. Idea2appstore.com and appreneurbook.com. and that's where you can find out more about his book, AppreneurBook.com. So check out those sites, as well as Taylor is a regular contributor on AppClover.com, as well as in our iPad magazine, Appreneur Magazine. And it is now available on your iPad in Apple's newsstand. So thank you, Taylor, for being on. We really, really appreciate it. And we really suggest that people go and check you out. As well as Jeff Williams, thank you for being on as well from Weblance. And the special offer for the AppClover community is still good. And if you sign up for beta on Weblance.com, you're going to get premium membership free. It's roughly a $240 savings. So go to Weblance.com and find out more about that. And of course, last but definitely not least, definitely stay tuned with AppClover.com. Check out what we're doing also with AppreneurMagazine.com as well. We're just getting ready actually to launch our second issue of that as well, jam-packed with a ton of exclusive information that you can only get in AppreneurMagazine.com.
Sorry, I just have to interrupt you right there. I know we're running long, but I did look at your magazine for the first time last week, and it is unbelievable. I mean, this thing is as well put together as FHM magazine, right? Because that's the only one I read, so all I can compare it to. But it is really good looking.
You can make that interruption anytime you want. Don't apologize.
Okay.
Well, really appreciate that. That was a welcome interruption there, Jeff. Thank you. And that's really what we're doing at AppClover, is trying to be able to deliver as much value as possible. So make sure we stay tuned. We've got a ton of announcements coming out in the next while that you're going to definitely want to hear about in the app world. So with that, we really thank you for being on again, and we will continue with these podcasts, so make sure that you stay tuned with us ongoing. Again, this is Len Wright, CEO and co-founder of AppClover.com, and we thank you for being with us.